Hello, welcome to Football Ramble 4 on Luke's English podcast. Just before we start, I thought I should let you know that there's quite a lot of rambling at the beginning of this episode before we actually get into the football. And when we do get into the football, which is after about 25 minutes of conversation about various things, including some interesting stuff like communication style, when we do get into the football, we get into it properly with lots of detail, focusing especially on England versus Argentina, which happened yesterday as I record this. So plenty of football chat. You just have to wait about 25 minutes, skip forward or enjoy a great conversation about communication and all sorts of other interesting things before we actually delve deep into the world of World Cup football for the World Cup. Yes, around the world. Good. Hello everyone, welcome back to Luke's English podcast. How are you doing? So this is World Cup Ramble number 4. And as I have said at the beginning of all of these World Cup Rambling episodes, this is a bonus episode, right? Which means that this is not instead of your normal regular podcast episodes that you have come to expect from me. This is in addition to, okay? At the moment, if I'm just able to talk about my podcast uploading schedule at the moment, things are a little bit up in the air. It's a very busy time for me, and it's hard for me to keep to the regular schedule of publishing a new episode every Monday, because also I want to talk about the World Cup. But if you're not interested in football, feel free to skip this episode and just wait for the next normal episode of the podcast, which is going to come soon. I don't know if it's going to come on Monday because of time constraints, but certainly very soon you'll get another exclusively football episode of this podcast to listen to. This is being recorded today. This Football Ramble number 4 is being recorded today on, what's the date today? It's Thursday, the 16th of July. It's the morning, almost midday, Thursday, the 16th of July. For context, this is the morning after England were knocked out of the World Cup in the semi-final by Argentina. That game happened yesterday evening. I'm still coming to terms with what happened and the result. It was Argentina 2, England 1. We're going to talk about it in plenty of detail in this episode. But yes, I'm gutted. I'm really disappointed that that's the end of England's World Cup campaign. But Argentina did it. They beat us, and they are in the final against Spain, which is coming on Sunday. Also, this week, France were knocked out by Spain, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But commiserations to the French, the country where I live. I haven't actually spoken to many French people about this. So the mood in France, I'm not quite sure what it is, but obviously everyone's disappointed. It's a little different for France because they won it not that long ago. Anyway, we're going to talk about all this stuff. We're going to talk about the games. We're going to talk about the some of the context of England versus Argentina and why that game is always so emotionally charged. There's history there, which I would like to talk about, and as many other talking points as possible about the action both on the pitch and off the pitch. So this is World Cup Ramble number 4, nearly at the end, recorded just a few days before the World Cup final happening in 3 days, is it? Anyway, Sunday. Right, my guest today is Zdenek, coming back to the podcast again. He was featured in World Cup Ramble number 2. Here he is back again for World Cup Ramble number 4. Zdenek, the host of the Footglish podcast. Hi, Zdenek. How are you doing?
Hi, Luke. Hi, listeners. I'm all right. I'm not English. I've been through this disappointment already with my team, with the Czech Republic. So I could say I know how you feel, but this is a bit different because I think you were so close. Semi-final, literally one more game and you're in the final.
Yes.
It must hurt. So my commiserations as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm sorry, Luke. It must have been really hard. But one correction at the beginning, you said in your introduction that the World Cup campaign for the England team is over. It's not.
Yeah, that's
You're
right.
going to play another game on Saturday, which is the third place game against France, of all teams. So,
yeah, I'm actually really happy about that. That's right. So there is this other game, which actually these days is not called the third place match. It's the bronze. They've rebranded it as the match for the bronze medal. Is it a medal? I don't know. Bronze award, bronze trophy. I think it's probably a medal. It's not. There's no trophy for third place, but it's called the bronze. I guess bronze medal position, bronze medal match.
Or you could call it the most pointless game ever. I'm sorry to say, but nobody cares about this game now, I think.
The players playing that game must feel so gutted as well, just on the pitch, like, oh God, I never want to see a football again. You know, they're going out there, oh God, do we have to do another one of these? Oh God, how much do we want to be third place? You know, not even the first losers of the World Cup, the second or third losers of the World Cup.
I think a game like this makes a lot of sense when it comes to Olympics. I think that's because historically you have these three medals: gold, silver, bronze. And a bronze medal is a valuable achievement, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But it has never really caught on when it comes to World Cups. I don't think there is a third place game in the Euros. I don't think there is one.
No.
I think it for some reason it has become a tradition in the World Cups. But to be fair, I've spoken to other English football fans, and I've listened to some podcasts, and they couldn't care less about this game, Luke, now.
Really?
So I'm even surprised you are looking forward to it.
Well, I'm looking forward to it because it's England versus France, and this is kind of the final that we were hoping for in my house.
Right.
You know, because obviously my wife is French, my kids are both French and English, so this was a game that we were really looking forward to because we've been following both teams and like the idea of the two of them facing each other. Maybe we've avoided a very awkward afternoon or evening, you know. Maybe it's for the best that these teams don't face each other, because if France had won the final or whatever, if France win, then obviously I'll be disappointed. If England win, then my wife will be disappointed, and maybe it's better just for the peace and harmony of my family that these teams never meet. But they are going to meet on Saturday. So we're in my home. We're certainly invested in that game. And I think maybe the third place or the bronze medal game should have a bit more value than it does, because it's not nothing. You know, it's really not nothing to get that far. And surely in terms of rankings, it makes a difference, because whichever team comes third at the end of the tournament, you are the third best team in the world, and that's nothing to feel bad about.
I'm not so sure about this, because I know it just doesn't have that tradition. Then you have also the FIFA ranking, which it might give you a few points for that, but like, does it really matter? I think this is a game of two disappointed teams who would rather be at home after a really long, tiring season. And now you have to play this extra game in extreme heat, probably, as always. And a game that nobody cares about. I mean, I don't think it's a game that has any significance, to be fair.
I'm quite curious to see what's going to happen. You know, how will France go back to the form that they had before their disastrous semi-final against Spain, when everyone basically looked at them and thought, oh, these guys are clearly the classiest team in the world. And it looks like, well, of course, everyone just expects them to get to the final because they're just so brilliant. But then they got shocked by Spain and they sort of fell apart, and maybe even mentally kind of lost it. I don't know. Hubris. Did they go out there thinking, yeah, we've got this, we're fine? And they underestimated Spain? I don't know. But we'll get onto that. So anyway, I'm looking forward to the third place final, but just to see kind of what happens. But yeah, it's really got no stakes. There are no stakes to that at all. It doesn't really matter what happens as a result. But it's always nice to see. For me, it's going to be fun to see England play France. I just hope that it's a half decent game.
Fair enough.
Right, Zdenek, we've got loads of talking points. I think we should talk about what's the match of the moment or the mood of the moment, which is England versus Argentina. Let's talk about the action on the pitch and what happened, and that will probably lead us to talk about the greater context. And I've got a few things that I want to say about the history behind these Argentina-England games. There's the history of the matches that we've played against each other in the World Cup over the years, and that's an interesting story to tell on its own. But then also, unfortunately, there is a political context and a historical context which can explain why these games are so emotionally charged, and why the Argentinians love to beat England so much. I don't want to get into controversial things. I understand that people have very strong feelings about this, but I do want to talk about it a bit, just in order to maybe educate some people a little bit who aren't aware of the backstory between Argentina and England. It's quite interesting from a historical and political point of view. I don't like to talk about politics too much because I don't want it to poison the thing I've got going here with my podcast, which is, you know, something a bit more universal and you know, something.
I understand.
I try to establish a sort of universalism in my audience, you know, with principles of basically like peace and understanding. You know, that's kind of what I believe in. And I created this thing called Lapland, which is a sort of borderless metaphysical space that we can all feel part of. So I don't want to be dragged down into the dirt of the dirty nature of political commentary, which ends up dividing people. But I also do want to acknowledge some of the political background.
You can't always do that, can you? You can't avoid it. It's there, and you can't turn a blind eye to it sometimes, in my opinion. On my podcast, on the Footgish podcast, I sometimes get into it because I think I'm a little bit different from you. I'm more emotional, and often I get a very strong opinion about something, and I can't really lie to myself. If I want to say it, I will. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's not the right thing to do because it will put some people off and create a rift. And some listeners might leave me as a reason, as a result. Yeah. And but others may actually appreciate my honesty. I don't know, Luke, what's the right way of doing things. But I think ultimately, as long as we have our way and we stand by what we think, it's okay.
My honest opinion is that the world is a very complicated place, and there are many, many complicated reasons why things happen. And I always want to try to understand the bigger picture. I also want to look at events and situations with a certain level of compassion, to be honest. And that's something I think is an important sort of value that we all should use in our lives, you know, that the world needs a bit of compassion, it needs a bit of understanding. So it's maybe a bit naive, but I do want to try to maintain those values. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And my honest opinion is that it's worth trying to see the bigger picture and to understand the context of things and to be even-handed about things. This is my philosophy. And
I think it's fair enough, and also it's admirable. And if you do this, and I think, to be fair, this you mentioned the word compassion or empathy or these kinds of words. I think it's really important for us as English teachers too. We're both English teachers, and you need to have qualities like that because you teach your students, and you have to deal with their emotional states, and you have to encourage them, motivate them to learn, and it's not always easy, you know. Learning a foreign language, it's a tough, grueling journey, you could say, right? You had to learn French, obviously, you're probably still learning it.
Yeah, and very much.
English is not my first language. I'm Czech, so I remember the journey too, and I'm still on that journey. And if there is a teacher along the way who can be compassionate and empathetic and understands how you feel, I think it can make a real difference. So you having your podcast, Luke's English podcast, being an English teacher, I think you are really probably doing the right thing. But for me, it's like I'm like I said, I'm a bit different sometimes when I don't like Donald Trump, for example, I will just say it and I don't care because it's just what I think. And I feel like if I don't say what I think, it's like almost like I'm purposefully avoiding the truth or something,
Yeah.
you know.
I
So
totally understand that. I think
I may piss some people off in the process, of course. I do realize that.
I think we're touching on a kind of cultural thing here in terms of communication that is unavoidable and worth mentioning when we talk about the culture of maybe, I don't know if it's the English, if it's the British, if it's even of the English language, if that is such a thing, or maybe the sort of communication culture that is predominant in native speakers of English.
Yeah.
Certainly in the UK, you always end up. I've noticed it time and time again in English lessons, for example, where I'm talking about diplomatic communication or indirect communication and politeness. When you start to get into the pragmatics of that, you always end up having a cultural discussion about, for example, on one side, direct saying exactly what you think is more honest. It is more. There's more integrity to it, and from that position, if you look at the sort of stereotypical British way of communication, which is to not say exactly what you think, but to take a more diplomatic line, which you could argue is even dishonest because you're not being totally clear and open and honest about your opinion. But from my point of view, I totally understand all of this, but I also think that what to explain to people who don't understand what English people are doing when they are indirect is not something dishonest, but it's just something that's perhaps a bit more measured and pragmatic, communicating without letting emotions sort of prevent us from being factual and reasonable and all that sort of thing. So we perhaps moderate our communication style for pragmatic reasons, just so that we can actually kind of achieve things and say things without upsetting people and without spoiling the conversation,
I feel like it's another language. This like using a lot of understatements and euphemisms, and basically it's something that you understand when a Brit talks to a Brit, they understand exactly what they mean. You have touched upon this on your podcast many a time.
Yeah.
For instance, I always remember your example of I will try to make it when you get invited to a party and you want to reject the invitation. You don't want to go there, and instead of saying no, I won't come, or even say sorry, I won't make it. Instead, you say I will try to make it, which if you are within this culture, you should understand. When a Brit tells you I will try to make it, it means I'm definitely not coming.
Or it means that if you receive that text, well, I might try to make it. If you receive that text from a Brit, it means, okay, I need to just manage my expectations here. There's a chance this person's they're probably not going to come, because that's not a very strong commitment. And we expect each other we expect a certain level of understanding, I suppose. We give each other a bit more room. It's like, okay, well, maybe you're not going to come. Fine.
But in my culture, if I translate it word for word, even the modal verb might, it actually means there is a pretty good chance I will come.
Yeah.
So this is the difference, you see. So I think if you know the British culture, I think your listeners, they have been listening to you for a long time, probably learning English for a long time. They got a pretty good insight into these cultural, what is it called? There's a linguistic study. Is it pragmatics? I think it's pragmatics, isn't it? Pragmatics is the linguistic discipline that deals with this stuff when you say one thing and you mean another thing.
Or just like managing how the words you're choosing are going to have an impact on the person you're talking to. And I think it's a crucial communication skill. You need to have a certain level of control over the language in order to manage the impact of what you're saying on the person in front of you. Now, there might be times when you say exactly how you feel and you speak in a very emotional way. And it's, I don't want anyone to believe that English speakers who are sort of diplomatic are incapable of expressing their emotions. We are perfectly capable of expressing our emotions, and we do it when we think it's appropriate. But a lot of the time we just don't think it's appropriate, or we don't want emotions to come in and spoil what could otherwise be a diplomatic conversation where words and discourse is the battleground, and we don't want it to get ugly. This is the thing. Wow, we ended up talking about some very interesting stuff. We're supposed to be talking about football.
Like, 20 minutes into the episode, we haven't even touched upon football yet. So.
But I think it's interesting. I hope that my audience understand the value of what we just talked about, which is essentially we ended up getting sidetracked about by the question of how British people, perhaps stereotypically, perhaps not, will talk in a diplomatic way. But this goes back to what we were saying about the philosophy of my podcast, which I think is worth defining, which is that I do believe in the power of democracy, certainly, but diplomacy. I do believe in the power of diplomacy. I think the importance of diplomacy as well. And this is really a principle that I will support, which is
I'll fight for and die for.
Well, all right,
lay your life.
Steady on, Zdenek.
Yeah, there now you are doing the British.
Yeah. Let's not talk about. I don't want to use that sort of strong language of dying and stuff. Just let's not go that far. That's the opposite of what I'm trying to do.
I'm joking though, so I think you know.
You're playing devil's advocate there. You're getting me going. But I do believe in the importance of diplomacy and the power of language to solve problems, and the power of communication, and that's what I believe. And I'd rather promote those ideas on my podcast rather than sort of go for the more knee-jerk, emotional, even clickbaity content that a lot of people will put out there, getting stuck into political issues and being very strident and opinionated on things. I have my opinions. I do. I have strong opinions, and I struggle a lot with to what extent I should express them on the podcast. And
I know,
as you've said, it's impossible to win. You cannot win. So there will be people who still argue that if I have opinions, I should express them because I've got a platform. But anyway, I'm doing my best. I'm walking a line, and I attempt to continue to walk that line. So that's that. Now,
it's your podcast, Luke, and you can't please everyone.
Exactly. I've nearly done 1,000 episodes. I should know by now how to proceed. Zdenek, talking of communication, and more specifically about the way you and I communicate with each other in these episodes, we're going to talk about England, Argentina, everyone, I promise, and various other things.
In 10 minutes, 20 minutes, we will get there.
It's fine. Look, let's just take our time. This is okay. It's a podcast. That's the nature of the medium. People can skip forward. They can listen to this again later. They can stop. They can whatever. You have a one-to-one student who you are teaching English to.
This morning. His name is Libor, and it was crazy because I knew I was going to record 2 podcasts with you. One for the Footglish podcast that your listeners can listen to as well, where we discussed a lot of stuff about the England Argentina game, and then this one. Yeah.
So, listeners, on that subject, sorry to interrupt, the Footglish podcast. Yes, that's Zdenek's podcast, all about football and learning English. We recorded a conversation, the two of us, for that before we recorded this. So that's what we did earlier. And listeners, if you want a more condensed conversation where we focus mostly on England versus Argentina, specifically the football on the pitch, then you should listen to that. If you think to yourself, this is interesting, but I don't want it to go on forever, listen to the Footglish episode. Yes. Anyway, what did your students say to you this morning?
So I'm glad you're bringing it up because I told you about this. Basically, I have a really proactive student, Libor, and hi, Libor. I know you are listening to this probably because I know you are a Luke's English podcast fan.
Hello, Libor. Hi.
and he basically I say he's proactive because it's him who brings the topic of each lesson to the lesson. And I really appreciate it as an English teacher because he does a lot of work for me, basically. Besides, I think it's so much more effective if you know what you want, if you know what you want to talk about. He prepares his own vocabulary for it, and I'm just there to discuss, to practice English with him and provide feedback for him.
Great.
But anyway, he surprised me this morning because I did not expect the topic he was going to come up with. And it was actually the fact that he had listened to the episode we recorded before, to Football Ramble. Was it number
Yes.
2?
Yeah.
Yes. I was like, wow, Libor, of all people, I know he's not into football at all. He said, yes, Zdenek, I'm not interested in football. I'm not really enthusiastic about it, but I have to say, I even surprised myself to what extent I've enjoyed this. I think he liked, in particular, the fact that we didn't only talk about football. There was a lot of other stuff, a little bit of the political stuff, and we talked about the football rules and the ref camera. And he said it was great. And he also told me, because I had sent him a message as well, that I thought I had been interrupting you a little bit in the episode, and I know you said this. You also thought you had been interrupting me. Mm-hmm. We interrupted each other a little bit, right? A little bit more than perhaps you do in your regular episodes. And Libor told me, hey, Zdenek, I thought that was actually great. I enjoyed the authenticity of it. You shouldn't feel bad about it.
Yeah, so this is great that we got this feedback from Libor, because it is something that the two of us are very aware of. And as podcasters, we know that perhaps listening to two people cutting each other off and talking over each other at times is not the greatest listening experience. And so we cringe a little bit when we realize, oh God, we were talking over each other. Like at the end of the conversation, we think, oh, we talked over each other too much.
We texted each other about it, right? We said, oh, because it's always like after you record an episode, you have this, like, it's a little bit of relief because it's done, right? You've done it, and then you start thinking, oh, what did I say anything wrong? Did I say anything to upset my listeners, or how was I? How you start, you get a bit self-conscious, right?
Yeah.
And then probably you have a quick listen, maybe to check if the sound quality was okay, to check the video and everything. And then you listen to a 10-second bit, and then you're like, oh, I interrupted Luke there, so.
Yeah, because you don't want you don't want to read comments from people saying, oh, you're so rude or whatever, because, that's not the intention. Sometimes it's quite hard to do these calls where you've got a lot of things to say, and and you're thinking of things in the moment, and because it's online, it's harder to interrupt. Like if we were in the same room, it would be much easier to manage the conversation. We use a lot of nonverbal techniques. Even like when you're talking, you could even touch someone on the arm. The way we're in if you have a conversation in the pub, you do those things as a way of you can interrupt someone, but just a little touch on the arm is a friendly sign. So it's very hard to do that online. And sometimes if the connection's not great, you end up kind of both talking at the same time. Anyway, we were worried that we were perhaps rudely interrupting each other, and that it wouldn't be a great listening experience. But I'm very happy to get that feedback from Libor, and I hope that other listeners also agree with that. Now, Zdenek, we must now talk about football. So what was your assessment of the England-Argentina game? What can you say about that then?
Well, I couldn't believe my eyes, especially about what was happening in the second half. The first half was a bit uneventful. Not much happened there. Of course, it was like almost like an MMA battle or something. You know? Like there was a lot of little fouls going on. The referee was letting the game go a lot, especially the Argentinians. But I thought the English as well were getting involved in sort of like it was not free flowing football, and defense was more important than the offense. I think in the end, there were just 2 shots on goal, 2 shots off goal, off target. Each team had one. So that was like a terrible viewing experience for a neutral fan. I think it must have been a nerve-wracking for both Argentinian as well as English fans, because you really didn't know what was going to happen after that. Like you probably expected extra time and penalties, to be fair. But then the second half, oh boy.
Oh, jeez.
That
What a
was
roller! It was horrible. I have to say, it was.
you must be traumatized by what happened there
There
as
was
an
obviously
Englishman.
there was the goal, which was an incredible moment, and I talked about it on the Footglish podcast, celebrating silently in my kitchen because my little son was sleeping in the next room and I didn't want to wake him up. So
Yeah,
I had to silently scream and shout and sort of jump up and down in my chair. But then, almost immediately after England scored a goal, we just changed our tactics in the most
right.
disappointing way.
It
So
was,
there's a lot of disappointment, which I want to talk about. Can we just talk about what happened in the first half a little bit more?
of course. Let's
Um,
go.
so yeah, for me as an England fan watching the first half, I was pretty shocked by um, certainly the first, let's say, 20 to 30 minutes, and what I saw. Maybe I'm not objective in the way I was seeing it, but what it looked like was that Argentina were fouling England
Mm,
players all over the pitch, um, and doing some pretty diabolical things, like kind of pushing England players in the back of the head, arguably whacking English players in the back of their head, kicking them, fouling
yeah.
them, and the referee was not being very strict with the players, and it felt like
Mm,
he was being very lenient with Argentinian players. Now, maybe it was just that Argentina were the ones who were doing the tackles, and that if England had had the opportunities, they would have been doing the same thing. But I felt like Argentina came out very aggressively, and they chose to foul England players a lot, and they were dumping a lot of England players on the ground. Now, maybe English players are making the most of those moments and going down very easily, which disappoints me too. I don't like to see that in football. I don't like fouls, but I also don't like diving. And I don't
yeah.
like the combination of the two, where someone steps on someone's toe and the other one leaps into the air and does 3 somersaults and grabs their entire leg. None of that appeals to me. But what I saw was a lot of aggression from
Yeah.
Argentina in particular, and some pretty unfair things that were not
Yeah.
being
Mm,
punished by the referee. In fact, the referee was even giving the favouring Argentina with his decisions. For example, Rogers gets clearly fouled and falls to the floor, and the referee gives a throw into Argentina. A lot of those things were happening, and I was thinking to myself, "Oh my God, is it true? Are the conspiracies actually true? Is this all fixed?" Now, bear with me, listeners. All right, because I went on a journey while I was watching this, because I started out fully aware of the theories that FIFA have been helping out Messi in Argentina, and that a lot of decisions have favoured Argentina. A lot of people are very angry, particularly Egypt after their game, where they feel like it was stolen from them because of unfair decisions that apparently favoured the Argentinian team, and that the referees were biased, and the whole thing's a fix. Now, I was
yeah.
aware of that, and I went into the game thinking, all right, let's not get carried away. It's not as simple as that. Let's see. So I was willing to give the whole thing the benefit of the doubt. And then I saw what was happening. And in my mind, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Uh, really? This seems unfair. I don't know. But,
I don't know.
but,
I
but if I could
mm,
just finish that little bit. So,
yeah.
um, what I actually think is the case is that the referee decided that he wouldn't give yellow cards in the first 20 or 30 minutes of the game. This is probably what happened. That the referee thought this game's going to be brutal. They're going to kick each other around. It could get very rough and tough out there.
Yeah.
And if I start giving yellow cards, even red cards in the first third of the game, by the end of the game, even by the end of extra time, there might be virtually no one left on the field. And, he can't break the game by sending lots of people off or giving out yellow cards at the beginning. Maybe I'm being a bit,
It's
maybe I'm being
actually
very generous here to the referee or whatever. I don't know. But
it's a
uh,
tough job as a referee. You have to really find the right balance, because you are walking a tightrope. On the one hand, you really don't want to get it out of control, because once you start showing too many yellow cards, once you start booking players and cautioning them left, right, and center, it will get out of hand. The game will get out of control. You will probably award a red card to someone. You will send someone off early on, and it will ruin the whole game. We saw what it did in one of the previous games. Even there was a red card in your game against Mexico. Then there was another one in the Switzerland-Argentina game for diving. It ruins the game. The game is not the same anymore. So actually, it's good refereeing if you don't immediately start booking everyone for everything. It's good. But then you have to be fair about it. You have to keep the balance right. And at some point, when it gets too much, when it reaches the limit, then you have to really do something with it. You have to deal with it and be right about it. And that's so hard. I think I don't want to. I don't know. I feel like when I was watching this game, I noticed that Argentina were doing it a little bit more, but I didn't think it was as one-sided as you are describing it. I thought it was just a fair, what's the word, scuffle, or like a fair sort of battle. There's a lot of pushing and shoving, a lot of whacking, as you said. But is as you said as well, it's gonna have to do with the history between these two teams, the games you have played, the Maradona hand of God and other stuff. Beckham, there was something that happened between Beckham and Simeone in the past, and then of course the war, and that being an important aspect as well. So that was always going to happen. They were predicting a lot of yellow cards. I even wanted to make a bet. I wanted to place a bet on that. I didn't in the end. I would have lost that bet anyway, because the ref wasn't showing that many cards. So.
Yeah. And what I did notice, I think this is a pattern that I noticed. Maybe my analysis is wrong, I don't know, but it looked like the referee was definitely holding back on awarding cards. And it was that the Argentinians, in terms of football, England were pretty good. I mean, the first half, as you say, it was marked by a lot of battles and scuffles, and it was very kind of raw and testy and tetchy. Yeah. A lot of fighting and disagreements and pushing and shoving, and not many actual plays into each penalty box. As you say, neither goalkeeper had to make a save, I think, the first 50 minutes or something. And Argentina clearly chose to be aggressive and rough with England, and England did have some promising moments where we were clearly attacking Argentina's penalty box, and Argentina stopped them arguably by roughly fouling the players. But it is a contact sport, and they got away with it. They took the risk of being heavy with the English players, and the risk paid off because it meant that they prevented England from actually threading passes through and gaining, advantages which they could have got. So it's, in a way, it's like clever of Argentina to take that approach. They didn't get too many cards. They cancelled out England's attacking movements, and they frustrated and controlled the game. And then later they started playing football. But England scored a goal. So the two central defenders of Argentina did get yellow cards after the referee decided, right, maybe 30 minutes into this game, now I will start awarding yellow cards. And the cards did come out about 30, 40 minutes into the game. The cards started to appear. And Argentina then got 2 yellow cards in their defense. But then England scored a goal. Second half, 51st minute or something like that. Anthony Gordon, cross came in. He got on the end of it in space and stuck it in. And I was so pleased. And I texted my friends Amber and Paul. And I was like, he's a Scouser. Because he's from Liverpool. And I was just, like, he's from Liverpool. He scored a goal. Because we and
it was his first World Cup goal as well. It was a great moment. And to be honest, in the entire World Cup, it's been just Bellingham and Kane scoring. I think they scored 12 out of your 13 goals prior to this game or something. So everybody expected goals from those two players. And then suddenly someone new. Great, Gordon, who is about to go to Barcelona as well. And everybody is like wondering why, right? He is signing for Barcelona, which is obviously an amazing club. And people have been wondering why. He hasn't been showing much. But he was great, and what a goal, what a moment for him.
Yes, I think people have seen now what kind of player he is, and he's brilliant, right? He's tenacious and a lot of movement, a lot of heart, a lot of spirit, and dangerous, So Gordon has been great for us, and he was great for us yesterday. I also should point out not Reece James, who was our other our left back, who was excellent. Jed Spence.
He was the player of the game, player of the match, I think, for a lot of people.
Absolutely fantastic, Jed Spence. But Gordon also was, as he has been, was great. But then after England scored the goal, this is when things changed. And Tuchel, our manager, our coach, decided to be defensive, and he rearranged things. He made England play what's called a low block, which is where basically we play very deep into our own half, crowd the penalty area with our players, and defend very, very deep, and allow Argentina to come in and start attacking the box. But because our area is so crowded by players, that we prevented them. The idea was to prevent them from getting in and then try to go on the counter attack.
It's a valid strategy, except so you as you said, you go into low block, you put a lot of players to congest the area, make it difficult for Argentina to break you down, and you invited a lot of pressure. Except you just said you are supposed to go on counterattacks, which is the part you didn't do.
Yeah.
All you did was just, hey, look, I don't know if you saw the stats. Yeah, it might blow you away. Apparently, from the goal that you scored, from that Gordon's goal, until the moment Argentina equalized, I heard that England only had 12% of possession. Yeah. I don't know if it's true, but that's simply shocking. Like, I've never ever heard a team having just 12% of possession. Never. Even in the Barcelona tiki-taka time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was incredibly frustrating and disappointing because you think, okay, fair enough. It's arguably a reasonable strategy, to defend your lead and to go in for a low block, right? Yeah. And we did it against Mexico.
But you were down to 10 men. That's the main difference for me, Now, in this game, you weren't. And you scored a goal, so you should be positive. Why not? Yeah. Why not add one more? Just kill them off, Yeah. Why not kill them off? Why just let the one team that has this one player called Lionel Messi orchestrate this incredible turnaround and comeback, especially after seeing that happen many times before in the World Cup, where Argentina were 2 goals down against Egypt, for instance. Yeah. And 10 minutes to go, and they still managed to win 3-2. You have seen what Argentina can do. Yeah. To me, it just doesn't. I don't even know, Luke. Was it just the manager that instructed his players to play in this way, or was it the players who were at fault as well for just not having enough, for not being brave enough, and just simply? I think I have a feeling, I have a theory that it's Tuchel because of his substitutions. Too defensive, but also I feel like your team lost it in their heads. Like the players, the main players that are supposed to just say something, like they were all sort of, I don't know. It seemed like it was an utter collapse, man. You completely throw in the towel in that game.
It's because, oh dear. I mean, how are you supposed to have that sort of strident, positive attitude that England have shown, especially like embodied by Jude Bellingham, this kind of fighting, never give up, tireless approach? How can you have that? How can you play like that when you're in a low block?
Well,
you know what I mean?
And you're 1-0 up.
Yeah, you're 1-0 only up, 1-0. Everything, everything says everything. Where it's easy to look in hindsight, right? It's easy to look after the game. And Tuchel said this himself defensively. He said in an interview, it's easy to look back at a game when you know the result and then to kind of put the pieces together and analyze it. When you're in the middle of it, it's not quite as easy to see things so clearly. Hindsight, everything's easier in hindsight. But nevertheless, everything suggests to me that it was the wrong decision. Sure, the low block when we were 1 goal ahead. Was it 1 goal ahead against Mexico?
I can't remember.
We won 2-1, didn't we? It's such a long time ago. It's only a few days. I can't remember. I'd need to look at the score sheet. But but it worked basically for us against Mexico. But yes, as you said, we were down to 10.
You won 3-2 in the end.
3-2 in the end. Okay. Yeah. Okay. But we essentially were defending a not a massive lead, and it was and we went into a low block. We only had 10 men, so we were forced to do it. And it was I think it was probably less time. It was only 20 minutes, whereas in Argentina we started to take that strategy with 30 minutes plus to go. So it worked for us against Mexico. We were forced to do it. We had 10 men, and it was Mexico. This is not a team that is known for its, they don't have Lionel Messi, for example, right? That's the main thing. So there we are against Argentina with more than 30 minutes to go. Okay, we've got 11 men. The strategy of attacking is working quite well. But no, we went for a low block. And this is against a team that is, first of all, as you said, well known for coming back after being down. They've done it time and again during this competition. They've been down, and in the last 20 minutes, they've turned it around and won. This is what they do. And Lionel Messi there, the greatest player in the world, it is his job, and he's the best in the world at doing it, to find ways to get through tight little spaces and create goals. So essentially, with more than 30 minutes to go, we let the greatest team do their greatest thing. We should have continued to attack. The best form of defense is attack in that situation. But it's easy to say in hindsight.
It's easier, yeah. But to be fair, like, they equalized. It was like in the 90th minute or something, right? So for a long time, it was sort of working. But I think it wasn't, because it looked like it might have been working. And if you saw the game out like that, nobody would probably say anything now. But the thing is, in my opinion, the writing was on the wall for a long time, because they had so many chances and they kept ramping the pressure up, and you were under the cosh is another good expression. You were under the cosh, and there was like they hit the post. Pickford was brilliant at that point. He was parrying everything. He was saving every single shot.
Yeah.
Even if his style is I find him sometimes a bit strange. He looks like a clown to me sometimes with the way he presents himself on the pitch, but he was excellent, and he has been excellent for you in this World Cup.
There was one particular save where he dived low to the right.
Incredible.
A fantastic save. No, he's been brilliant. I know what you mean. He's a bit sort of
goofy.
Goofy, yeah. And you get the impression with him that he's going to make a mistake. He seems a bit sort of shaky or something. And also his reactions, whenever anything happens, he just screams and shouts and throws his hands in the air. And he's like, what is it you're trying to say? We don't know.
And he has very wild body language, and even like towards his own teammates. I think you just have to sort of accept him for who he is if you're his teammate.
Yeah.
And I think he has been great for England for a long time. So I think he's a good number one for you.
I think goalkeepers are often quite crazy, and it's not uncommon to have a wild goalkeeper. That's not bad. It's not a bad thing. Yeah. They are a different. Yeah, that's not a bad thing to have a wild goalkeeper, as long as they have to dominate their own 6-yard box. They have to have a big personality. And absolutely. Sure, his arms are quite short, but his character makes up for it.
I have to say, I love the phrase that the Czech commentator used when he was describing this low block or parking the bus moment.
Yeah,
he said that it looked like a siege of Camelot. The castle, the castle from the Arthurian legend of the King Arthur.
Yes,
it made me laugh.
That's good. That's a good way of putting it. It was like that. England sort of retreated into their castle, and Argentina just lay siege to them. And it was just like, there's got such a long time. They're bound to get through. And we were, Pickford saved. They hit the bar, but they were going to score. It was obvious. It was obvious after 5 minutes of this that we couldn't hold on.
It was an amazing equalizer. We have to give credit to Enzo Fernandez. But I want to ask you, don't you think that Pickford was at fault there a bit.
Well, the strike from Hernandez is kind of like
From range.
from
Yeah.
range. Yeah.
Enzo Fernandez, yeah.
I don't know. Why would he have been at fault there?
Because it
What did you
didn't
see?
it didn't exactly go into the side netting, and it was from long distance. And it seemed like he was a bit late to leap or to jump there, to the side. It felt like he might have done more. It's possible that he didn't see it, and he only saw it last moment. And also, we have to again mention Lionel Messi, because it was him who made an assist, and he made another one for the winner, for the Argentina winner. But that was a great cross, and it seemed like a lot of your players were probably a little bit tired by that time. And the player who scored the winner, Lautaro Martinez, he seemed unmarked for that. It was what we call in football free header.
Yeah.
It was a free header from him, so that definitely, that sealed your fate. Unfortunately, I want to say, I want to use this fantastic football phrase, but it's not just a football phrase. I love it. If you want to say that you were bad, and you want to say it as an understatement in the British way, you can say you didn't cover yourselves in glory. That's my favorite euphemistic phrase for this kind of scenario.
Talking of diplomatic language, instead of saying something outright negative, you say something positive, but with negative grammar around it, right? So cover yourselves in glory. I think everyone understands basically that. But putting it in a negative sentence, you didn't cover yourselves in glory. This is the way. This is one of the ways that we use diplomatic language or understatement. Yeah.
And another one that comes to mind: you didn't pull out any trees on the day.
We didn't pull out any trees.
Have you heard that one before?
I've never heard that one before. That's an obscure one. Was that like an ITV commentator or something like that?
No, I've heard it. I've heard it many times from some football fans from a YouTube channel that talks like about a football team.
Oh yeah, okay.
If you want to say like somebody didn't play really well or didn't have a good game, you say didn't pull out any trees.
I mean, you can imagine what that means. It means really applying yourself and putting all of your effort into something. Okay. I should say we're talking about England a lot, and our focus is on them, of course, because I'm English and stuff and whatever. But I should say credit to Argentina. I didn't like the way that they conducted themselves at the beginning of the game. Arguably, that's just a cultural thing, and arguably they took a risk there with dangerous borderline football, and it paid off for them. That aside, no, I don't want to take credit away from Argentina. Obviously, they brought the game to us. We chose this strategy of the low block, and they defeated it. They thoroughly defeated it. Messi was a large part of that, but not just him. The whole team, they got through our defenses. So credit to them. They did it. Okay. So there you go. There you go, Argentinian fans. So credit where it's due. You won. You won the game. Good. Good for you, I suppose.
Yeah. Like the phrase is to pull up any trees. Sorry, they didn't pull up any trees, or your team didn't pull up any trees. I just checked it.
Same thing.
Sure.
Same thing, though, listeners. Yeah. Right? Basically, uprooting trees, pulling them out of the ground. Yeah. Okay, so fair dues. So now go on. You were about to ask me a question.
I just wanted to ask you about how much do you think this is Tuchel's fault? Because I think he will. A lot of criticism will be leveled, at him. He will get a lot of stick from the fans, from the media, and there is this also thing that he's German, right? So that's even the appointment of the coach. I think it was like the first time it ever happened. Some people were against it because he's German, right? We know you have history, of course, the Second World War and all that. And is there anything like? Do you think? I'm just saying this because that makes it more charged. Yeah?
No, I agree. I'm wondering so the question is like, well, obviously Tuchel is going to get a really hard time now. I haven't
asked the question yet. Basically, I wanted to ask you if I think you know it. So can you guess it?
To what extent is this Tuchel's fault, and what will the backlash be against him?
Yeah.
I think he's going to get a really hard time in the press. Will it bother him? Maybe not. He seems to be quite unflappable. He seems to, well, I mean, unflappable. He's very passionate. He's very animated. He gets worked up about things.
Yeah.
But will he be bothered by his treatment in the press? I'm not sure. I get the impression he's a fairly high-minded person who might not be triggered by it too much, and he will, it might even fuel his motivation to succeed in the with this next opportunity, because Tuchel is going to stay on for the Euros, as far as we know.
You think he won't be sacked then?
No. They're not going to sack him. The guy, he made mistakes in this game. There's no doubt, and he's going to be criticised for it. Like choosing the low block, substituting Gordon, and substituting attacking players.
Rice, Rice and Gordon, and basically putting on defenders. Basically, at one point you heard I don't know how many, 6 defenders or something like that.
Yeah, I know. Just that. Yeah, that whole decision to defend. He's going to be criticised for that. There's no doubt. Everyone today will be having conversations like the one we're having now, and they will be concluding that it's Tuchel's fault. Okay, I can't see how. Maybe the players didn't bring the players lost something in their mentality. I don't know, but I think it's the root of it is in the change of strategy, and that's got to be Tuchel who's going to take the responsibility for it. Now, you mentioned the kind of cultural element, the fact he's German, and is that going to work against him? I don't know. I think the country's kind of on the fence about Tuchel's nationality. I think the fact that he is such a excellent manager, and despite yesterday's game,
so well, he won the Champions League with Chelsea, and he has a really good track record. He has proven himself in the Premier League, and I think it was a great appointment, a great manager who was free at the time, and it's just maybe a tough act to follow because Southgate had done so well. But to be fair, I think when this all blows over, right, a few days later, you will probably think of this tournament as a successful tournament. Come on, semi-final is no mean feat, right? Reaching the semi-final.
For me personally, when we won, for me, the quarterfinal was the bigger one, right, against Norway. For me, I thought to myself, if we win this game, I'll basically be happy. That's why I don't feel so bad today. You said this morning, you're like, oh, well done for agreeing to do this, because you might have felt so disappointed you just didn't want to talk about it. I'm okay. I feel like it wasn't a big failure. We're in the top 4. Yeah. We might be the 3rd team if we can beat France. Oh, who knows? So I feel okay about it. So yeah, I think overall, I don't consider it to be a huge failure, considering some of the World Cups and Euros that England have had over the years, where we've been utterly disappointing. I think globally it's been good. We've been positive and we've shown some great football. We just kind of made this one error in this game, and I don't really understand why we did it.
Yeah,
it was a mistake, and I think that Tuchel is really going to be kicking himself hard over this one. I guess, unless he's philosophical about it. I don't know. He seems to be quite a philosophical guy. He might be thinking, well, I made the decision I thought was the best decision at the time, and in this particular occasion, it didn't work out. Maybe I should have waited another 10 minutes before doing this. That could have made all the difference. Who knows? If he hadn't done that, Argentina might have scored more goals. We don't know. But he'll get some stick for it. With the fact he's German, I don't think it's going to be that much of an issue. I think that I'd be surprised if the press start laying into him and making German jokes and things like that.
Not the press, but some of the fans. Some fans are just a little bit.
Yeah, of course. There's always going to be some fans who can't help it. I think there's probably all across the country, in fact, during this World Cup, England fans, probably older ones, have been trying not to copy his accent, have been desperately trying not to do caricatures of the German manager. And it's pathetic, really, because it's a stupid stereotype, but it's still a lot of hangover from mainly the way that Germans are being portrayed in movies and TV shows. We've had
I think it's understandable. It was after the war. I understand why there was this sentiment in Britain, in Europe. It was just what happened. They were the bad guys at the time. Now they are good. They are all right. But
Yeah.
before, and every country, not every country, but a lot of countries have been the bad guys in the past.
Sure.
So you just need a few generations for this to be, I don't want to say forgotten, but let's say forgiven or stuff like that. And this was a huge part. You as a comedian, you know it. This German accent, making fun of them, winding them up a little bit with that kind of stuff, making fun of the German stereotypes. It was a big part of the comedy scene, right?
Yeah, so like
true.
70s and 80s, it was okay to kind of like poke fun at the Germans in this kind of stereotypical way. I think that's over. I think we should all move on, quite frankly. And I think we've got other things happening in the world now. The world is rearranged in a different way, and so we could just move on from that now. And I think that also the idea of a foreign manager managing the team is totally fine and normal. Plenty of other countries have had foreign managers. There's no reason why we shouldn't. And I think maybe England, what England really wanted was Klopp. That's who we really wanted as the England manager, because he was so popular and so loved at Liverpool. And I think even fans of other teams were looking at Klopp and thinking, this guy's just great. I mean, he's just got so much warmth to him, and so much character, so much charisma, which Tuchel doesn't have. He doesn't have warmth. He's clearly very intelligent and clearly really motivated and driven and positive and smart about the way he manages his teams and stuff, except for yesterday, arguably. But I'm sure we wanted Klopp. I'm sure we wanted Klopp, and he wasn't available. So we're like, well, there's Klopp or Tuchel, but we'll have Tuchel for sure, because this guy's brilliant, and he has a lot of the things that Southgate didn't have. So Southgate had sort of heart, and he was loved by everyone really, and he was a gentleman, and he wore a nice waistcoat which everyone liked.
That is important.
He looked smart, and he got the team going, and he was great, but he didn't have that complex footballing brain that Tuchel has got. So anyway,
and Klopp, Klopp, by the way, what a coach. I just want to say a few things about Klopp. What a coach, the success he had with Liverpool. Then he realized at one point that he had enough, right? He almost burnt out. And was he working for UEFA, I think? No, for Red Bull, I think, for Red Bull or something to do with Red Bull. Anyway, he took a break from managing. And now there are rumors that he could become the new German manager, because Nagelsmann, I don't know if he resigned or was sacked, one of the two. Anyway, he's no longer the German coach, Nagelsmann. So I think Jurgen Klopp is linked.
Oh, he's great.
With the job.
I think that if that did happen, England fans would find it hard not to be jealous. And England fans will look at Klopp and think, oh, he's the one that we really wanted. And, you want to swap. It feels more natural that Tuchel would be the German manager and we'll have Klopp, please. But I think that's all it's all sort of silly, really. And the fact is that Tuchel's obviously a great manager. I don't think there's any problem between him and the players. The media have been trying to create a story about a rift, and stuff like that, but it's not the case. I think the players respect him. I think he's brilliant, and I just don't understand what happened yesterday. But no, he's not going to get sacked, and he shouldn't. He's the best manager we've had for decades and decades, and hopefully he's going to help us win the Euros. I think we could do that.
I just wanted to say, if you had lost that game against Congo, was it in the last 16 game? I think it was.
Congo was it was the last 32.
I heard like the sort of the opinion that I hear from podcasts, from English podcasts and British podcasts, is that if you had lost that game, he would have been sacked.
Oh, sure, for sure.
It was a make it or break it moment, And so since you got this game over the line, and then the Mexico stuff, if you had lost the game against Mexico, he wouldn't have been sacked, because that was hard circumstances, playing at a high altitude, playing down to 10 men, But that game, that was the deciding moment for him to stay. The Congo game, because you were also, I think you were 1-0 down in that game, right?
Yeah, oh God, yeah. Forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It was quite an early goal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he's going to survive. I think that he can come out of this. It's going to be difficult. The fans are going to be wondering how to feel about Tuchel, but I think on balance, after the smoke has cleared, we'll decide that no. We shouldn't give him too much of a hard time. He's a great asset for us, and he did. Ultimately, the team did well. We didn't completely disappoint.
For sure.
I think it's all right. We're just gonna. It's going to take us a little while to get over the confusion of why he'd made those decisions yesterday, and that's painful. But once that wound is healed, I think we will embrace him again. I guess it depends. We'll see. We'll see how things go with the qualifications for the Euros and things like that, and we'll just see the lay of the land.
And Nations League as well, which my team is going to face England. My team Czechia in the Nations League. There's a tough group. We're going to finish bottom of that group. It's Spain, England, and Croatia. Oh, gosh.
Jeez, I don't understand the Nations League, Zdenek. I don't. It's just like, what? Yeah. Another one? Oh, God.
It's another one. It's another competition, basically. It's something UEFA created. I think, again, it's like they want to milk the cow. They want to make more money. And so they created this extra competition, which I like it for one reason. You tend to play against the opponents of your level. So that's good, right? So you are in Group A. Somehow we managed to win Group B. So now we are in Group A as well, even though we shouldn't be there. But we are there now. So that's why you face these strong opponents and you don't play against, no offense, but the San Marinos and Gibraltars and these teams, right? So that's going to happen in the Euros qualification probably. But anyway, if you do well in the Nations League, it's also a way you can get into the Euros or the World Cup. It's another path, right? For example, Sweden. The reason they were able to compete in this World Cup 2026 was because of the Nations League, since they didn't win a single match in their qualification. So it saved them. It's very complex and complicated.
I can't start to think about the Nations League. It's just like a whole other thing. Okay. Now I wanted to mention this, and I feel like maybe I should, since I mentioned it earlier, so I should probably follow up on it. Why the England-Argentina game was so charged. And when I say charged, I mean full of emotion, right? And Argentinian fans listening will know exactly what I'm talking about. England fans listening will know exactly what I'm talking about. The rest of the world probably aware a bit, but it's one of the biggest rivalries in international football, a very, very passionate and strong and almost bitter rivalry between England and Argentina. I think particularly for the Argentinians, they look at England as a team to beat. They're very keen to beat England. And it would have been a massive thing for them yesterday. Why is this? There's context from football, but of course there's a wider context, which is a political situation. And this is where, you can't really separate politics from, you can't really take the politics out of things. You can try, as I do, but we all know that politics does start to impinge on other things, and football is a good example of that. In theory, the World Cup is this universal tournament where it's all friendly, it's all done in good faith. The nations are just playing football. It's a peaceful idea, but naturally, the political and historical context starts to bleed in.
Creep in.
Yeah, exactly. So just to give some context for that. So a lot of it's about the politics. And I want to appeal to my Argentinian listeners and just sort of say to them that, I want to be understanding and I want to sort of see it from your point of view. I would like you to see it from our point of view as well. I also want you to know that I'm not, I'm not particularly sort of, how to say it, militant about this. I've had a few comments. I've had a few comments from people. I've had some sort of, I guess some people have been giving me a hard time as an England fan, saying things like, I've had comments from people saying, a lot of people keep suggesting that refereeing decisions have not been fair and that nothing's fair. Do you think it's fair that the Malvinas, yada, 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 and then starting to
The Malvinas is another word for the Falkland Islands. Basically,
Islands.
You in Britain call it the Falkland Islands, but the Argentinians refer to the same islands, the Malvinas. Right?
Yes, exactly. So I've had some people commenting as if I have a strong opinion on the conflict, assuming that I am 100% sort of pro-English, that I have strong opinions in favour of Britain's position on the Falkland Islands or the Malvinas. Anyone I think who knows me from my podcast will know that I'm a very reasonable man. And that and that I like to try to see the bigger picture and stuff like that. So don't assume that just because I'm English that I have particularly militant attitudes towards that. And in fact, I'm quite sort of even-handed about it. It was horrible. There was a war. So the full context is that essentially there are these islands off the coast of Argentina, okay, and it's disputed territory. And as we know from the world, there are lots of examples of disputed territory, and they can become horrible situations that can't be resolved because two different sides have differing opinions on this.
They claim the territory, right?
They claim the territory, right?
Yeah.
So now you look at it and you think, okay, these islands are, in terms of proximity, close to Argentina. So, that's next to Argentina, so it must be owned by Argentina, which is, one way of seeing it, just simply the proximity argument. But historic, it's ownership of land.
So hang on. So had you discovered the land? That's what happened there, right?
That's the history. As we know, history is not always completely objective, the history books, but in 1690, so in the 17th century, the English claimed that they discovered these islands, that they were completely uninhabited.
Oh, and there were no people there?
No one there, completely uninhabited. And in
what about some monkeys? Were there any monkeys there at least?
No, it's not that kind of place. Monkeys. It's not Gibraltar.
No animals at all. There must have been
there must have been animals. Yeah, but we need a UN charter for animals now. But there were no humans. As far as I know, this is the history. This is the.
But you know what? At the time, people also referred to certain ethnicities at the time. For them, they were less than humans. Sometimes it happened, like the Indians and stuff like that as well. So
there's been all sorts of messed up madness and inhumanity throughout history. And my country's been part of it. And, most countries have been part of it in some way, right? We're all tainted by it in some way.
The bigger countries, especially
of course, the bigger, older countries, the colonial countries, right? Yeah, for sure. So England claims that they discovered this land and they were the first sort of people to actually go there and populate it. Then there's the Spanish, right? Spanish Empire, who also lay claim to it. They say that they turned up and that they had settlements in parts of the islands as well. Now, how do you define ownership of an island like this? And a lot of it's down to permanent settlements. And it's disputed whether the
language, right? The language of the people that are there. So what language do the Falklandians or what?
I don't know what you call them, but if I can just finish my little potted history of this, the Spanish came in, I think, in the 19th century, early 19th century, and kind of like kicked out the English that were there and claimed the island themselves. And then when Argentina achieved its independence, they argue that they inherited a lot of the land, let's say, that was owned by Spain in the region, and that includes the Malvinas / Falklands, whatever way you want to put it. So they believe that they do have a legal claim, but the English, using a different legal system, claim that they still have a legal claim because there were permanent English settlements there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like an impossible. It's a situation that's impossible to resolve, and I could be more staunchly sort of English. I could be Margaret Thatcher about this and say, no, they're English, and that's the end of it. But that's not who I am. And I think there are probably Argentinians out there who say, no, they're Argentinian, and that's the end of it. And there will be Argentinians who say, oh, well, it's a bit complicated. And what we don't want to do is have a big fight about it. Thank you very much. But in 1982, Argentina sent out a flotilla of warships to surround the islands, intending to claim it. And England responded by sending warships to the region, and there was a war. I don't know if it's officially called a war, but it's a war. And it was ugly. People got killed. British, an Argentinian warship was sunk, and I don't feel proud about any violence, any war, the sinking of a battleship with 300 plus people in it. I don't feel proud about any of that. In fact, I see moments like that as tragedies. Okay, so basically, if there are people coming to my comment section assuming that I'm in favor of all that sort of thing, I'm not. But that's some context of it, and you can understand.
Yeah.
Particularly, the Argentinians feel that they have the moral high ground. They believe that there's an injustice that's been done. They not all of them, but a lot of them, certainly the sort of more nationalistic ones, will believe.
I heard that a lot of the population, basically most of the population, really feel like the islands should belong to Argentina. Like there was some opinion poll made, But so that would be one argument. And the proximity you mentioned. But on the other hand, I've just checked because I was curious about this. I've just checked, and Google says that the vast majority of the inhabitants speak English there. That's the official language. And apparently, according to Google, only 10% speak Spanish. So I don't know.
So this is actually written in the UN Charter, right? The UN Charter gives the people who live there have the right to self-determination. So we can look at history and we can argue until the cows come home about who has the legal right to it. And of course, it's the proximity to Argentina makes it appear to be obviously Argentinian land. Yeah. But there's another complicated factor, which is that there are people who live there.
There are people there, and they have the ones to decide, right?
They have the right to decide.
And there were referenda in the past, apparently, and they decided that they wanted to stay within the British Empire.
Yeah, but I understand that by even pointing that out, I'm going to be upsetting people. And
no, it's
I don't want to upset anyone. I don't. I want to keep things sweet and reasonable. And as I said before, I prefer to, use diplomacy and so on.
But basically, this really crops up when there's a World Cup tournament, because Argentinians and Argentinian fans, and probably the players themselves, they use this issue as a fuel because they feel like they are justified, they are right, and they feel stronger about it than the English, I think, as well, because since it's so close to them, and they are not the ones owning it, so they feel the sense of injustice. I think they use it as extra motivation to really beat England and to thrash them, to show them at least in football. And of course, they also love football, and they are really good at it, and that makes it's tough and it's sad and tragic, but also we have to say it makes for a great viewing as a football fan, and really, as long as it's all done in a fair way and following the rules and everything, those games are iconic. We have had, you can mention the World Cup games we have had in the past, and oh my God, those games, they will not easily be forgotten.
Yeah, let me give a bit of football history then. So Argentina and England have faced each other a number of times during the World Cup. The first one was in 1966, hosted in England. It was a quarter-final. And I watched some of it. You can see it you can see the highlights on YouTube. It's all black and white. And I was amazed.
I thought you were alive. No, you watched.
I'm not that old.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
No,
exactly.
I was amazed. I watched it, right, from 1966, and there's Bobby Charlton on the pitch and all this. And I was amazed. I was like, oh my God, it's so similar to football today. I was expecting it to be really different. It's so unbelievably similar. There's players diving, they're writhing on the ground. The
ball is round.
The ball. Yes, exactly. But the way that the game is played is so similar. I was expecting it to be different, but it's like exactly the same game, but the ball is heavier. That seems to be the only difference.
Right.
But in the game, the Argentinians fought really hard in the way they do. It was similar to what we saw yesterday. There were a lot of really rough physical tackles, and eventually the referee started to send Argentinian players off, and he tried to send off the captain, and the captain refused to leave the field. And in fact, the entire Argentinian team surrounded the referee and refused. And they said, if he goes off, we all go off. Right? And there was a big hoo-ha in the middle of the pitch.
I see. That's why they can't send Messi off. Now it all starts making sense.
Yeah, maybe they don't want a rerun of 1966. And it went on and on and on. And eventually the captain, I believe it was the captain, the Argentinian captain, left the field. But before he did that, he sat down on the red carpet that was laid out for the Queen, who was in attendance. There was a red carpet laid out for her. He went and sat down on it for a while, out of defiance, before finally leaving.
Out of disrespect as well, right? A little bit.
Absolutely, yeah. Big sort of symbolic act. And then eventually England went on to win the game, and then went on to win the World Cup for a change. But that's 19. And what happened? The big thing, though, the big thing that happened after that was that the manager of the England team, Alf Ramsey, who later became Sir Alf Ramsey, was a national hero because he led the team to the World Cup victory and became a national treasure. Now, people always say that he later described the Argentinian players as animals, which is unforgivable. That's an unforgivable thing to say. It's a huge slur to describe a whole team of people as animals. Actually, he didn't describe them as animals. He said they played like animals, which is not the same thing. Saying they are animals and they play like animals are subtly different things. And they played like animals is not quite as egregious as saying they are animals. But the word animals was used.
Yeah.
And that was, the Argentinians won't forget that. And that's a horrible slur. Okay.
And then, of course, the hand of God. And we talked about it in the previous ramble. I think everyone knows.
Yeah, that's what, when 86, the hand
Maradona
of God thing.
scored with his hand. So that was 1986.
Yeah,
and that was in the Azteca Stadium in Mexico. That's when this game was held.
Yes, that's right.
You lost it, and Argentina went on to win the World Cup, right?
Correct. Yeah.
That was was that the final, or was this? That was the final,
quarter-final. England, Argentina was quarter-final.
And then Messi scored. Maradona scored. They are kind of similar. They are both goals.
Small. Yeah. Both small and great. Small and big at the same time.
They're both small, like in size, but like huge.
Big in terms of stature.
Figures, yeah.
Yeah.
And that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then
next?
Next, also there is the World Cup. Was it 1998? I think it was when Diego Simeone, who is the current coach of Atletico Madrid, fouled David Beckham, the icon, the football and fashion.
He wasn't an icon at the time, not quite, but
wasn't yet.
Not quite yet. Like the nation wasn't quite sure how to feel about this David Beckham in 1998. They saw him as being a kind of a fairly vain character,
right.
Who had a famous Spice Girl girlfriend, he was
Spice. Yeah.
He was in the press a lot wearing fancy clothes, and we didn't quite know what to think of him at that time. He played for Manchester United. He was obviously very talented at football, but he hadn't become the David Beckham that we know today. So we were still on the fence about this young lad.
But anyway, he was fouled by Diego Simeone. It was like a really bad foul. but I don't remember if the referee showed a yellow card at least for that. But I don't think the player Diego Simeone was sent off for that. But what happened then was that David Beckham retaliated. So that's in football. When you get fouled, you should just accept it and okay, well, maybe you can say something, but definitely you should not try to punch or kick someone just to retaliate, right? To get your revenge. That's in football. It's considered worse as a type of offense. Yeah, it's considered worse than the foul itself, the original foul itself. And when you do something, when you punch someone, if you punch someone accidentally, it's definitely a foul. If you kick someone, it's a foul. Sometimes yellow, could be a red, but it's not as bad as if it's an intentional sort of cynical foul. But Beckham, he kicked Simeone when he was lying on the ground. But to be fair, I've watched it recently.
Wait a minute. When he was lying on the ground, we need to clarify. When Beckham was lying on the ground, Simeone was standing up. So, because the way you said it, it might have sounded like Simeone was lying on the ground and Beckham kicked him when he was on the ground.
Sorry.
No, it's Beckham was on the ground after having been fouled by Simeone, and he was lying on his front, and he kind of swung his ankle up and sort of whacked Simeone on the back of the leg with his heel, and I believe that Simeone later said, "Okay, I fell down. If I hadn't fallen over, it wouldn't have been a red card." Simeone,
it didn't look that harsh, to be honest.
He tapped him on the back of the leg with his ankle.
It seemed a little bit soft then, but it was fairly,
yeah. But Simeone went down. Simeone went down. Beckham was sent off. Yeah.
In football history, we have seen a lot of these retaliatory, is that the adjective?
Yeah.
Moments, right? And a lot of players receiving red cards. And often those are like clear punches. We all remember what Zidane did to Materazzi, right?
Right.
As well in the same World Cup in the final.
2006, actually. No, it's 2006, that one.
Okay, sorry, my bad. Yeah, that's yeah, because you know why I confuse those two? Because I think 1998, it was when France, it was a home World Cup, which they won as well. So I'm confusing these two. Anyway,
no, I get them confused as well because there were two finals with France. Yeah.
My point is that sometimes you give a red and it's very clear. Like, it's just, you cannot do that. It's forbidden in football. But other times, red cards were awarded for just sort of almost just an intent, you could say. Like that was definitely an intent. It's like a reaction, basically. It's a guttural, or what do you call it? Like a instinctive reaction when somebody does something bad to you. You feel hurt. You feel this injustice, and you do the same to them, right? It's like eye for an eye or something. But that's forbidden in football. You shouldn't do this. And but you also, as a referee, you should really distinguish between you should look at the intensity of this. How intense was this, right? So I think it was. I think England were they felt rightfully hard. What's the expression?
Hard done by.
Hard done by. Yeah, they felt rightfully mistreated, basically.
Yeah, that's right. It felt like it was a pretty unfair sending off, but I mean, it's debatable, isn't it? That's completely debatable.
It always is.
You've just sort of explained that quite well. How that kind of retaliation is naturally a red card. Although, to be honest, I was texting my wife yesterday while watching the football, and after Argentina had done various things, including, like, as I said before, like, I'm sorry, Argentinian people, you won the game, so fair enough. It's like you got it. But let me have my little complaints. Some of the tackles were pretty rough. I mean, like not just tackling and kicking legs, but with the arm coming in and whacking the back of. There was one on Anderson where he went flat on his face. Simeone, funnily enough, another Simeone was the one who was being heavy-handed, literally with his hand.
Son. Is it
his son? Wow.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Isn't it something starting with M, right?
Miguel? I can't remember. I just remember Simeone. But Anyway, we should probably move on from this because we could just get bogged down in this. And no matter how hard I try to be even-handed and diplomatic, there's always going to be, we're always going to get comments from people talking about Giuliano Simeone. Okay. Anyway, what's done is done.
Yep.
We could start talking about England, Norway, and the football that hit the cable. We talked about it on the Footglish podcast. We won't talk about it more now, but we kind of came to the conclusion that it did hit the cable. And if it hit the cable, that means that the goal should have been disallowed. And if the goal had been disallowed, then maybe Norway would have gone through. And then if Norway had gone through, then maybe Haaland would have scored a goal against Argentina and, would have, could have, should have.
It's more complicated than that, Luke, because there is also Croatia who scored a really good goal. And they needed that goal. And then VAR overturned it because they had a chip in the ball, which showed that there was a touch with the
hair.
Body part of a player. But when you were watching it, there is no touch. There's no touch. Nobody can see anything when you're watching that game, when you're watching the replay. But the chip in the ball said, yeah, there was a touch. But why did the chip? Why did the chip not say anything about this wire touch?
So the ball brushes against a Croatian team member's hair, and it registers a touch. The ball whacks into a cable at the top of the stadium and bounces down, changes its trajectory and bounces down to Elliot Anderson, who picks it up and then helps to score a goal. And no, it doesn't register there, so God knows what's going on. I mean,
there's a theory saying that it was too high. Some people are saying it was too high, so that technology is not able to.
Oh,
that's one of the theories.
It was out of the kind of catchment zone,
out of reach, out
of range of the technology. Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, there's there has been injustice. There's been injustice here, there, and everywhere. Some of it arguably has been due to some level of corruption, although it's hard to try and identify where the corruption ends and where just chaotic events begin. There have been bad refereeing decisions. There have been good refereeing decisions.
Some mistakes as well. Human beings make mistakes too. That happened for sure. Yeah. For me, the worst thing, Luke, I know I'm coming back to this. We've discussed it with Fred as well in the previous ramble. But for me, the worst thing is still Donald Trump's involvement in overturning that red card for Balogun. Like I can't get over that one. I'm sorry.
It's unbelievable.
And it's terrible. And you know what England tried? They also tried to ask FIFA if they could forgive that red card that Kwanzaa got. And you know what the response from FIFA was? They doubled his punishment.
Right. Yeah.
They doubled his punishment, right? So instead of doing the same, instead of forgiving this red card to you and allowing him to play in the next game, like they did with this Balogun, this American player, because of Donald Trump's phone call, instead of doing the same thing and being consistent, right, fair, they doubled the punishment because this was not Donald Trump, this was Keir Starmer. I don't know.
Yeah, right. I mean, what that is, Zdenek, is just blatant corruption out in the open on display.
Yeah, I agree.
And that kind of thing is obviously bad for many reasons, but one of the reasons is that it brings the entire integrity of FIFA into question, and it absolutely creates a breeding ground for conspiracy theories where if anything goes wrong on the pitch, if you don't get your way, if the results aren't what you wanted, then everyone will start to understandably decide that the whole thing is corrupt and rigged.
And everyone is upset. Egypt was upset. Everyone is upset now after every single decision like that because it's often very impactful.
Yeah, but because FIFA's got no integrity. That's the problem. FIFA itself has no integrity. No one trusts FIFA.
Yeah, and you could argue it has always happened, right? There was Sepp Blatter. We have seen a lot of watch documentaries on Netflix about Sepp Blatter, and then he was replaced by Infantino, yeah? And the difference for me, Luke, is that before, at least, they were trying to hide it. Now it's like Donald Trump is like talking about the fact that he has this speech where he sort of shows off. He uses it as a way of saying how powerful he is and that he can get away with everything, rather than just, if you do it, at least pretend like I don't know. It's just
I know what you mean.
It's just like openly saying that, yes, because we are powerful people, we can do this, and you cannot touch us. We are untouchable. That's the worst thing about it, and it changes the landscape. The landscape of like, it's a huge problem, in my opinion.
Yeah, it generally erodes a sense of fairness and general integrity in the world. This sense of fairness, justice, these ideas slowly get chipped away and eroded because the people in power want to change the status quo to their advantage.
Do you know why young people start playing football? One of the reasons, like, you love the sport, but also it teaches you rules. Like, it's very nice, right, to start playing maybe board games, but also doing sports, because there are two teams competing against each other. Okay, you want to win, but one of the things as a child you learn to follow rules, right, and respect your opponent. And it's just this is just so bad. It has like far-reaching consequences, in my opinion, that people don't even realize.
What does that teach the children when they see these? It teaches them that forget the rules. You just force what you want through. What kind of world do we want? We don't want a world where there is cheating and blatant corruption. It's appalling, isn't it? And I think it's okay to say it.
Disgusting,
Yeah. I mean, we could also talk about the way that the game has been changed. And this is, we're not, rather than pointing our finger at Donald Trump, like so many people do, we could, just generally look at the way that this World Cup has changed the World Cup. It's been quite a big change, not just the number of teams. And I don't think we're ever going to go back to 32. We can't go back, can we? Now that we've gone up to 48, we can only go further.
And we will. Because Infantino talks about 64 now.
Yeah, of course. He just wants more and more. We could assess whether the 48 team structure has been good or not, because arguably it's been quite good, but not. Well,
it's not all bad. I agree. It's a mix. Yeah. Some things have been good. Like his argument is that he wants more teams to smell this, like to get this opportunity to compete at the highest level, and it's wonderful to give a chance to smaller teams. But in the end, the bigger teams are favorites. The bigger teams will get away with stuff. The richer, the bigger, the more powerful, they will get a leeway, right? They will sort of get some kind of advantage. Or
one thing though is that the people often say this, that the big teams have been favored, and they say it as if it's like a secret sort of like a conspiracy to favor the big teams. But in the World Cup, the big teams have always been favored. We have the concept of seeded teams. And so, it is. I mean, that's not a secret. That's not some sort of corruption. That's just the way that the competition is designed, and it's always been like that. The teams that are most successful in the qualifying campaign end up at the seeded team of their group. So you've got one powerful team at the top of each group, and then a slightly less powerful team in the second position. And the ones that win the group, which will probably be the better teams, go on to play a weaker group in the next round. And so the big teams, the big teams have an easier path to the knockout stages. That's just the way it's always been.
But they deserved it because they got to this position by being good, right? So that's right. I don't have a problem with that. That's fine. My problem is when there is an official or some kind of decision, some administrative decision is made to allow one player to continue in the tournament, even though that player should receive a ban for getting a red card in that game against Bosnia, Balogun, and then you should do the same then with some other players. But no, that's not how we do things.
Absolutely. Now. I just mentioned that thing about seeded teams because I've just seen a lot of commentary online from people talking about that very thing as if it's part of the conspiracy. But no, let's not get confused. That's just the way the tournament is designed. So, there's a lot of, I don't know, I should probably never look at comments and stuff online. And I find myself going on X just to have a look at some clips. And then quite quickly, I'm in some sort of cesspit of comments where it's horrible. And I start to see racial abuse. And then I think, okay, why am I on this platform? Let's just leave this. This is not good for me. It's not good for the world. Let's just get off this. But I was thinking, Zdenek, of maybe if we got control of FIFA, if Infantino is kicked out let's just have a daydream about this for a moment. Let's say Infantino gets kicked out and they say, all right, well, in this new world order, we're going to give it to Luke and Zdenek. You guys can run it. I was thinking what might be interesting is to completely change the way it's done and have
I would allow Czech Republic to automatically qualify. First
you're
of all,
instantly corrupt. The
we
power,
need that because we are so bad that we.
The power instantly corrupted you, Zdenek. You instantly got corrupted wholesale.
I'm joking.
I know. Of course you are.
I would never do that.
But absolute power corrupts. Absolutely, we know this. Yeah. Nevertheless, alternative versions of the World Cup system. How about we have group stages which are arranged by region? This would be a true World Cup where
we already have it.
Do we?
It's the qualifications.
Not the no. I want the group stages.
But that's it, right? That's that. But the beauty of a World Cup, in my opinion, the sort of the original way of doing things was that one country who was able to do it hosted the tournament, right? You had one country, whether it's England, Italy, France, on other continents too, of course.
Yeah.
And then they hosted the whole World Cup. But now, since you're increasing the number of participants to like 48, 64, not many countries can even do that because they don't have enough stadiums. So these countries have to be rich, or someone like Qatar, like they are able to. They have so much money that they can build the stadiums. But then there are other issues, like we have had issues with like human rights as well, a little bit, right? With some of the World Cups, it's a can of worms, Luke. I don't know if you want to go there, but
no, everyone understands.
It's problematic,
Yeah, it's pretty sketchy and dodgy.
Sports washing is a big word.
Sports washing.
Do you want to explain that for your listeners?
Sports washing is essentially using sport as a way of putting a positive
image.
Yeah, positive image. So washing away a negative image with sport. So, for example, a country hosts the World Cup and they use the World Cup as a way of promoting how their country is wonderfully tolerant and respectful of human rights. Everything's great. And then everyone in the world goes, oh, that country's actually fine, aren't they? Oh, I'd like to go there on holiday.
You know why they're getting away with this? The ultimate problem is that the sport football is such a good sport that we just cannot stop watching it. Right?
Yeah.
No matter what, we will always watch it. Like, no matter how corrupt it is, it's like, oh, World Cup every 4 years. I can't wait for it. You will have the World Cup fever, and it's like we are almost like imprisoned or trapped like in this world.
So
I don't know.
Are we part of the problem, Zdenek, just by talking about it? We should. Yeah, we are, aren't we? We're part of the problem. So we should probably just boycott football and talk about something else, some other game. I mean, what other game is there? Cricket, but you're not interested in that.
I fell in love with pickleball. I recommend that sport.
Pickleball? What's pickleball?
Pickleball, yeah. Pickleball is a racket sport.
Yeah.
It's played on a smaller court. Like imagine a badminton court.
Yeah.
And it's like a little bit like tennis, but also it reminds you of table tennis as well. You play it with a plastic paddle. There's one behind me. Yeah, there's one there.
I see it. Yeah, there's a plastic
paddle, and then there's like a plastic ball with holes. And this is super popular of all places in the USA. That's where it was invented.
Yeah.
But it's really gained a lot of popularity in Asia, in Southeast Asia in particular. So as you know, I live in Vietnam for quite a big part of the year these days. And so I fell in love with that sport there. And since I'm a retired football player, I hung up my boots already. I never made it to a large level, but I played a lot. Now it's nice to pick up a sport or take up a sport like that, because there's a low entry. Like what do you say? Like the learning curve is not so steep, and everyone can get into this sport more or less quite easily compared to tennis, for example, which is quite tough. I think for beginners, this is friendly, and you can play with women. You can play mixes, doubles is very social. What a lovely sport! You would love it too.
I would. I'm sure I would. Yeah, it sounds
amazing sport. Yeah, amazing.
That sounds
pickleball,
great.
Everyone.
Pickleball. Okay, so maybe next time, listeners, we'll have the pickleball rambles 1 to 5. You know, yes. I'll devote like however many hours to talking about pickleball for the next Pickleball World Cup, whenever that is, and maybe that's the future. Who knows? But then the Pickleball Association will gain power, and that power will be corrupted, and next thing you know, we've got world leaders using pickleball as a way of washing away any negative image of their country. Goodness me. Zdenek, we could go on forever, and listeners, I would love to have talked about your country, Spain versus France. I'll give you a very, very super quick ramble about Spain versus France. Basically, what the hell happened to France? France was supposed to be the best team in this tournament. They played so well throughout the tournament. They were brilliant. And just seemed unflappable and unstoppable. But then Spain, we all forgot about Spain, didn't we? Well, not all of us, but certainly a lot of us forgot. And Spain were absolutely excellent. They outplayed France. They controlled possession in I would say a slightly more respectable way than some teams. They actually, played very tight little passes.
Passing, they are very technical football, and they are so good in like tight spaces, right? They're just able to. I think they're also a very well balanced team. They don't have like any any weak spots in the team, weak points. And what a brilliant performance against France. They have been under the radar a little bit in this tournament. I think everybody thought France are the best team. No, look at Spain. They are in the final. And they won the World Cup in South Africa. They won the one in South Africa. And also they are the current Euros holders.
Yeah, that's right. They kind of, obviously we're all aware that Spain are a top team, but for some reason we took our eye off them a little bit here.
I agree.
Maybe there was a little assumption that France were going to cruise through that, because obviously France had a hard time against Paraguay, where they were getting kicked left, right, and center and punched and stuff, but they were never going to lose that game against Paraguay, because Paraguay weren't actually trying to score. They were trying to, just make life difficult for the French. And so France, it seems, were pretty cool. And then we thought, oh, these guys are cruising through this. And we all just kind of in the backs of our minds assumed, because they didn't have that much of a struggle. But Spain, it seems, timed their run very well, because this tournament it's not like previous World Cups. You're going to have a lot of longevity, and a bit like when you run a long distance race. If you run that fast, even for the first 2/3 of the race, you might exhaust yourself. And it's the last stretch really where you've got to start picking up the pace. And Spain really have managed that momentum very well and came into incredible form in this crucial game, whereas France were kind of caught napping. I got the impression they were sort of like half asleep. What was going on? I feel like because Spain was so good so early and controlled the game from the very beginning, France mentally would sort of like knocked out of their mentality, and they had perhaps become a little bit complacent, and they weren't.
Complacent is the word I would use. Exactly.
They were not mentally able to bounce back from the fact that Spain were just so on top of them.
Yeah, they thought it would just happen by itself, and even Mbappe, I think, criticized himself and the team. I really liked Mbappe in this tournament. I thought he had grown up as a player.
Yeah, I like Mbappe a lot. I think he carries himself with quite a lot of class. I agree. He behaves well. He seems like a decent guy. I don't know.
Definitely.
But that's how.
He wasn't like that at Real Madrid, and like he seemed to be like
arrogant or
there was
something.
too much of him everywhere, a little bit egoistic and stuff. But I think in this tournament he has shown he is a team player as well.
Yeah.
He has been great.
And a good leader and setting a good example, and
yeah.
I like the way he carries himself. I think
definitely
he's good.
He's good. But now, Luke, we have the final. So the final is between Argentina and Spain. So two Spanish-speaking countries.
Yep.
A huge. I don't know if they've ever faced each other in the final. To be honest, I don't. No. I have no idea.
No,
but
they
you know
haven't.
what the big. You know what one of the stories is, and it's wonderful. So obviously the biggest stars of each team. So the biggest star of Argentina, Lionel Messi. Who would you say if you were to name one player from the current Spanish team? Who would you name? Probably.
Yamin Lamal.
Exactly. Yeah. You know what the story is?
What? He could have played for. He could have played for Argentina. No, he couldn't have played.
No.
I don't know.
But Lionel Messi, when he was 20 years old, so 19 years ago, did a photo shoot. It was some kind of a charity project. You can easily Google this, by the way, listeners. Just Google Lionel Messi photo shoot, and this photo shoot was with Lamine Yamal as a baby.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it was with his mum, and the shocker, he is his father.
No. No, but
we need that. We need that in World Cup. I mean, like I compared the World Cup to Star Wars before. We need some shocking revelation of a family connection. But no, okay. So there was a photo shoot with Messi and Lamal when he was a little baby or a little kid.
It's a famous photo, and now it takes on a whole new meaning, right?
Yeah.
It's now these two players are the biggest stars of each team. Obviously, Lamine Yamal is 19 years old. Messi 39, right?
And not only that, Zdenek, sorry to cut in, but also the managers, the coaches of the team.
Right.
If I've got this correct, I think I do. The Spanish coach was previously, how do I put it? A kind of an apprentice to the Argentinian coach. I think this is right, or is it the other way round? I can't remember.
I don't know.
So anyway, one of them was previously working under the other one and learned a lot. And it's the line is it's the sorcerer versus the sorcerer's apprentice kind of thing. I can't remember which manager, which direction that is. I'm sorry, listeners, you'll have to research that one for yourselves, unless I can quickly do it now. But yeah, okay, that's interesting. It creates an interesting narrative.
So there will be other narratives. So we have Messi now. He is now the top goal scorer. So he is on top in the Golden Boot race, right? He's currently on top, only because he has more assists than Mbappe. But because there is this third place game, I believe it's still open. This race is still on.
The Golden Boot.
The Golden Boot race. Technically, even Bellingham and Kane, they both have 2 goals less. Technically, they could still catch them up. But I think it looks like it's between Messi and Mbappe, this race. But how about the Ballon d'Or winner? I think it's been decided now. What? We have the new Ballon d'Or winner, the Golden Boot, the Golden Ball.
So, wait. We have the Golden Boot, which is the top scorer, most goals plus assists, if it comes to that. Then we've got the Ballon d'Or, the Golden Ball.
You have to pronounce it in French because I don't know.
Ballon d'Or.
Ballon
d'Or.
Ballon d'Or.
Ballon d'Or. I don't know if that was 100% correct, but the Ballon d'Or is for the best player of the tournament. I don't know how that's judged, but you think we've got the Ballon d'Or winner?
It's clear because I think it has to be Messi. It's unbelievable. At the age of 39, you score 8 goals, and you again lead your team into the final in 2 consecutive World Cups. It's just incredible. Unfortunately for someone like Harry Kane, if Harry Kane had got into the final instead of Messi, it would have been Harry Kane because he had a brilliant season for Bayern Munich, becoming the top goal scorer. He got into the World Cup final. It could have been him, Harry Kane, the captain, the British skipper.
English.
Not British, English. The English skipper.
Take him outside. Up against the wall. No, go on. Yeah.
Your captain. Sorry, I said British. I meant.
Well, he is
England.
British as well, to be fair.
I know, it's confusing.
Yeah.
But for some reason, you don't compete as United Kingdom in the World Cup. You compete. You have England, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland.
I got a comment, a very angry comment about that. Why is it that you have 4 teams? It increases your chances of winning. It's like, well, have you seen Scotland play? It's not increasing our chances of winning. True, but it could be interesting having a Team GB, like a united British team, with players from England, Wales, Northern Ireland, and Scotland.
Well, you do compete as Britain in the Olympics.
In the Olympics, yeah.
In the Olympics, right?
Yeah. I don't know the reason for that, everyone. Don't blame me. Don't come after me. I'm not the one who's... I don't know. I don't get to decide these things.
Well, we also have Curaçao, right? Curaçao and the Netherlands. Why are they not playing? Why are they 2 separate?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
There's all sorts of... But there'll be some kind of legal definition as to why that's the case, so fine, move on. Okay, Ballon d'Or, you think it's going to be Messi? A lot of people will be very upset about that.
Whatever happens in the final, it's Messi already. I'm telling you. Put your money on Messi now. Yeah, do it.
Yeah. But in terms of what's going to happen in the game, well, I think that if Spain play like they did last time, then they're going to win.
But Argentina... They can come back from the dead, Luke. How many times have they done it?
They are fighters, to be fair. They are real fighters. You know what I mean? They just...
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And they get better when they are like facing a threat or danger. When they have to start losing the game to be better, right?
I know. What an extraordinary kind of team. What a crazy kind of... mentality or character this team has. The way they play so rough, and they play rough, but they manage to get away with it. I mean, putting aside the idea that the referee is biased towards them, which a lot of people believe, at the same time, they ride the line so well between fouling and sort of borderline cheating. Like, for example, I saw a moment where England got a throw in. We're going to stop soon, listeners, because I've got to go and have lunch. We've all got to carry on with our lives. But there was a moment where England won a throw in, and from the Argentine bench, they threw a ball onto the pitch. Not for the throw in. They just threw the ball onto the pitch to delay the throw in, so that England couldn't take their throw in quickly because there was another ball on the pitch. A lot of these like borderline things.
I honestly don't know. I think the betting odds show Spain as a slight favorite, but in my opinion, it's there for the take. Like, what's the expression? It's so unclear.
Yeah,
it's there for the taking. Any of them could do it.
Yeah, I think that if Spain can. Oh, it's going to be another rough, tough, scrappy game in the first half an hour.
Probably,
as both teams attempt to dominate possession, and they will get Spain. The Spanish are going to get kicked. They're going to get kicked, and maybe the Argentinians are going to get kicked as well. Everyone's going to get kicked around. The referee is going to have to be. He's going to have to judge it very carefully. How many people are going to get sent off? I mean, we've seen in the past that the final of the World Cup is often not the best game. It could be a bit of a stalemate. But if Spain can dominate possession cleverly, if they can avoid the kicks of Argentina, if they can just outplay them, then they can do it. But Argentina have got that crazy comeback spirit and that ability to control the game in the closing third. So who knows? Everything's up for grabs.
And Luke, what else we can look forward to apart from the hydration breaks?
What's that? Oh yeah.
A halftime show.
Halftime show, of course. How long is that? It's 30 minutes again, right?
Madonna, Justin Bieber, Shakira, they're all there.
Oh my goodness me. Is this football, Zdenek? Is this football as we know it?
And worst of all, there is a chance the person handing over the trophy to the winners of the World Cup could be none other than
Donald Trump himself. Trust me, folks, I know football. This trophy is the greatest trophy. Believe me, I created it myself.
It was actually the first time I heard about the red card. I didn't know what it was, but I thought that was not a foul.
Yeah, he might be weighing in. Well, it certainly looks like a lot of guys running around kicking the ball. I understand it's very popular in Europe. It's one of the most popular sports, and over here, we played it better, and it's great that the USA won the competition. The USA didn't win. Well, we, that was a Donald Trump impression. Everyone, yay!
And Spain,
haven't done that for a while.
It said recently a lot of bad stuff about Spain. Because there was a summit, there was a NATO summit. So now imagine the booing from the Spanish fans in the crowd when Donald Trump is shown on the screen, on the huge. Oh my God, this is gonna get. We still in for some entertainment, Luke. That's for sure.
Yeah, but what condition is Trump in these days? I mean, I'm going to set myself a timer. Right, this is 3 minutes, and when this timer goes off, we will just stop. And we will kind of add our closing comments and end. 3 minutes and 10 seconds. I might finish before then. But what condition is Trump in? There's been a lot of coverage about his physical condition, whether it's being hidden from us and stuff. A lot of hospital visits and shaky moments. I mean, he's a very old man, but moments where he seems to be confused. He's falling asleep in presidential briefings and meetings. He's going the wrong way. He seems to have weird patches on his hands that have been covered up with makeup. What is going on with this man? And if he's in the stadium, there'll be a lot of attention on him. And will they do that? He will just appear at a certain point. He's not going to be visible for the full 120 minutes or whatever that we're going to have. Surely,
if he's there, he would like to. He's definitely gonna want to be visible. That's
throughout the entire match. Do you think this is his kind of Caesar moment, like in Gladiator, where
he must be aware that everyone hates him at this point. Like there was like
God knows.
There was a final NBA final, right? And he had a speech there. That's NBA final. NBA. That's between two American teams, and he got booed out in the final when he had a speech. They booed him out. Imagine the World Cup final where we're not talking about the USA. We're talking about the whole world, the complex political situation, and he insulting pretty much every single country in the world and all that.
But you know what, Zdenek, if he gets booed, right, by the world, what will happen next? Because we know that this is a man who cannot take criticism. He's a man who is very petulant, and if he gets criticized or if he loses face, he strikes back. Is he going to just nuke the world? Well, Spain, you won the World Cup, but good night, God bless.
He will invent a different narrative. He will pretend that it didn't happen and something else happened. He will invent a different description of what went on.
Yeah,
that's what he will do.
The game of soccer was a great game. We've all had a very good time, but that's the end of it now. It's going to be American football from now on, gridiron football and the world's ready. And a lot of countries are saying that they want to play gridiron football, and it's the greatest game. It's a lot more popular than football, soccer. I should stop doing that. I think that's enough of that. We ended on a controversial moment. Some Trump fans out there in the world will be spinning in their seats.
No, I don't think you have any Trump.
Trump
listeners.
There's one or two oddballs.
One or two.
Whenever I talk about this, they're like, "You shouldn't criticize Trump. It's not Trump. It's FIFA. Trump is great." A lot of people think he's great.
What if Trump is listening himself?
God, I don't know. He'll be one of those native English speakers who writes in a nasty comment. What is it with this guy? I don't understand why he's so popular. He just talks and talks. It doesn't make any sense, and it takes 2 hours to get to his point. And it's a very bad podcast. This is not the way you should be learning American English. It's the greatest form of English. But don't come to our country. That's the end. The timer went off.
Yes.
As we have this music in the background to end the episode. Thank you very much, Zdenek.
Lovely.
Yeah, that
Thanks,
was good.
Luke. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, sorry, I talked over you.
It was a real pleasure, and well done, listeners, for bearing with us.
Yeah, that's right. It lasted about as long as the average football match in this World Cup, with hydration breaks and stoppage time and a 30-minute half time. Thank you so much. Listeners, I'm sorry if we didn't talk about certain countries you wanted us to talk about, or certain events or issues or controversies, or the fact that everyone loved Norway and wanted them to get through, but England put a stop to that little fantasy. Sorry, everybody. Erling Haaland, he's an amazing player. What a machine he is. But that's enough football talk for now. What's going to happen on Sunday? Who knows, but we'll be watching. Thanks a lot, Zdenek, and everyone. Listen to the Footglish podcast if you want even more of this. If 2 hours and whatever minutes was not quite enough, go over to the Footglish podcast. You'll find a link in the description, and you can just watch a shorter version of this conversation that we had earlier on today. Okay, nice one, Zdenek. Cheers. Have a lovely day.
One. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. 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 Bye.